foods should you avoid if you have just been diagnosed as pre-diabetic or diabetic? Hi, welcome back. I'm Dr. Tinuade Olusegun. I am the internal medicine doctor here at Angelic Wellness, and I wanted to share with you what I tell my patients when I'm on one-on-one consultation with them, and we've just found out from their blood work that they have pre-diabetes or diabetes. Okay, so what is pre-diabetes? Pre-diabetes is when we check your blood work and find that your fasting blood sugar is higher than 100 but less than 126. Or we've just checked your hemoglobin A1C, which is that 3-month average of your blood sugar, and it runs somewhere between 5.7 and 6.4. Okay, so when you fall within this range, we typically say you are pre-diabetic. Okay, so what do we say when you're diabetic? Well, diabetes means that when we check that fasting blood sugar, that your blood sugar is 126 or higher, or your hemoglobin A1C test came back higher than 6.5. Okay, so once you hit these numbers, diabetes is diagnosed, and if you didn't reach those numbers but you're not in the normal range, we say you are pre-diabetic. So what 5 foods can you avoid to help you get better, reverse pre-diabetes or reverse diabetes? Okay, so very important. There are multiple factors that create this problem, but we're just addressing the foods at this time. Okay, so 5 foods you definitely need to start avoiding is, first one is refined carbs. Okay, so for refined carbs, what do I mean by that? Those are usually overly processed foods. Carbohydrates like rice, very high in releasing blood sugar into your bloodstream, just straight up sugar, and foods like that, you know, like white potatoes and stuff like that, right? So we really want to stay away from this type of foods. Why? Because what we call their glycemic index, which means the rate at which they release the sugar into the bloodstream when you eat these foods, is too quick. And when you get that, what happens is that your insulin spikes, because insulin is the hormone that has to tell your body what to do with that sugar. And once insulin spikes, we have to then take the sugar out of the bloodstream, drive it into the cell, and either use it right away or turn it into fat. Okay, so we do not want that, because that just makes diabetes worse. Next foods that we should avoid are foods that are high in starches. Okay, so what do we mean by this? Well, a lot of roots, so things like yucca, things like, you know, potatoes, those are usually starchy foods. And starchy foods, believe it or not, even though they're a little bit more complex than refined sugars, they still turn into glucose when they're broken down. So they might take a little bit longer to break down, but they will eventually break down into sugar. And so once the body sees sugar again, what happens? Insulin rises, it spikes, and this vicious cycle continues. Okay, so we want to reduce starches from our diet. The other thing that most patients know even before coming in is liquid sugars, right? Things like soda pop, things like fruit juices, things like alcohol, right? Those liquids that are so refined and high in sugar content that the minute it gets into your bloodstream, insulin is diving through the roof. Okay, so most patients know that they need to stop drinking soda. The minute they hear that they're pre-diabetic or diabetic, they know this is something they have to cut out. But what we're saying is cut it out before we even find out you're pre-diabetic or diabetic. Nobody should be drinking those, okay? So again, let's cut those back. Now, this one is a little controversial because I tell my patients that are pre-diabetic or diabetic to also stay away from dairy. Yes, why? Well, dairy for a lot of patients that are not breastfeeding babies or 1 year old anymore, is very inflammatory to their gut. And what is going to make it harder to reverse diabetes or pre-diabetes is inflammation. So if we remove inflammatory foods like dairy, we are more likely to be able to improve your overall success rate when it comes to reversing these conditions. Okay? The last one is just plain old added sugars. Okay? So you're gonna find this in a lot of processed foods, in a lot of restaurants when you eat out. These are things like high fructose corn syrup. You're gonna find, just all kinds of fructose, sucrose, and stuff like that on the label of products that you are consuming. Okay. The other ones that you might not be thinking about, that is, also added sugar is syrups. So on a lot of packages, you will see things like tapioca syrup or, things like that. And it's kind of a hidden way of saying it's sugar. It's still sugar, okay? So be very mindful as you're reading these labels that these are hidden sugars that is being added to your foods that you're not even thinking about that it is sugar. One way that you might be consuming sugars and not even realize is through those vitamin gummies. Yes, I said it. Vitamin gummies. Okay, so I have a lot of patients that are like, I don't like swallowing pills, I don't like taking tablets, but I'll eat a gummy. And I said, oh, because you want the sugar. Okay, these things are high in sugar. In fact, if you read the label, most of the time they contain 5 different sugars in different forms that they've used to make these gummies. And they call them vitamin gummies, right? So you think you're taking your B vitamins, you're taking your vitamin D, you're taking your this or that or the other, but you're just ingesting a bunch of sugar. And you might be one that takes a handful of different vitamins every day, so you just ingested a handful of sugar pills, okay? And this adds up over time. You are ingesting way too much sugar than your body really needs. Okay, so be very mindful of this issue. Okay, so I tell my patients, read labels. Even though we know labels can be fake too, they can lie and not be completely honest, but at least read it what is written on there, because that might just help you not touch that product. Okay, so again, 5 foods you shouldn't be eating if you've just been diagnosed with pre-diabetes or diabetes are refined carbohydrates, starches, liquid sugars, fruit juices. We're talking about alcohol, we're talking about dairy, we're talking about high fructose corn syrup, and the likes, okay? So we'll talk in another video what we can replace this with, so that we are in a much healthier place when it comes to getting our health back in order. I will see you on the next one. Don't forget to click like and subscribe and join our free VIP group so we can learn even more on how to keep ourselves healthy, avoid all these chronic diseases that's going to cause us to have heart failure, heart disease, strokes, dementia, and so on. I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.